The destruction of the Twin Towers at the World Trade Center changed the course of history, becoming a new dawn of American foreign policy that officially, or at least immediately within the public's perception, was brought about by terrorist actions having taken place outside the state of New York on the morning of September 11, 2001, beginning at 3 U.S. airports: Boston Logan in Massachusetts, Dulles International in Virginia, and Newark Airport in New Jersey. Although another major target was successfully struck, the loss of life between building occupants and passengers in total was immense, as were the unanswered questions from the victims' families and general public. But the real story of 9/11, that being the targeting of the World Trade Center, began at John F. Kennedy Airport in New York exactly 9 years and 10 days earlier, on September 1st, 1992, when 2 Middle Eastern men trained with handling explosives arrived from Pakistan.
Let's go take a look back. Mary Murphy looked at the bombing in 1993 and other acts of terrorism since. Here's her report.
February 26, 1993 is the day foreign terror blasted New York into a new reality.
I never want to go through that again. I'll never go in that building. It was horrible, the feeling not getting out, not being able to get out. You felt smothered.
Within a week, the FBI had the undercarriage of the Ryder rental van that carried the bomb and its first suspect in New Jersey, a Palestinian named Mohammed Salameh, and then another Palestinian, chemical engineer Nadel Ayad, whose voice was captured on a message left for the Daily News.
This is the Liberation Army. We conducted the explosion at the World Trade Center.
The FBI discovered this ripped photo of Ayad in a garbage can outside his New Jersey home, the accused terrorist posing with a grenade beneath a Palestinian flag. The feds also found him posing with Egyptian radical El Sayed Nosair at Attica State Prison in New York before the Trade Center bombing, but after Nosair had been convicted of gun charges in the fatal shooting of Rabbi Meir Kahane. Within months, the group would be linked to a much larger conspiracy. A blind Egyptian sheikh named Omar Abdel Rahman finally surrenders from a Brooklyn mosque after the FBI discovers a bomb factory at a Jamaica Queens warehouse. Surveillance tape showing a half-dozen men delivering steel drums to the site.
As we entered the bomb factory, the 5 subjects were actually mixing the witch's brew.
The sheikh was later convicted of plotting attacks on the UN and bridges and tunnels linking New York and New Jersey. This evidence tape shows ringleader Sadiq Ali doing a run-through in the Lincoln and Holland tunnels, even scoping out areas where security personnel are stationed. Within a year of the sheikh's life sentence, 2 letter bombs arrived at the United Nations, not long after others had turned up at a federal prison housing the sheikh.
All were postmarked from Alexandria, Egypt.
We learned we were vulnerable then. We were vulnerable again when they hit Oklahoma City. And again, America and humanity is vulnerable to terrorism as we lost the World Trade Center today and an untold number of lives as well.
What has our great democratic government done here? What has our media done here? You know, the one story about 911, there's a lot of stuff you can hear about 911, but all you need to know about 911 and the fact that what we've been told is a lie is the personal testimony of William Rodriguez. Absolutely. I've heard all the stories. I've been on all the websites. I've read the books. I've seen the videos. I'm here to tell you his personal testimony, his singular experience proves that it's a lie.
Our office was on the B1 level. As I was talking to a supervisor at 846, and all of a sudden we hear, boom! An explosion so hard that pushed us upwards. And it came from the basement between the B2 level and the B3 level. And when I went to verbalize, we hear the impact of the plane on the top. 2 different events. That was the plane on the top. There was an explosion prior the plane hitting the building. A person comes running into the office saying, explosion, explosion, explosion. His hands extended, and all the skin pulled from under his armpits on both arms, hanging on the top of the fingertips. Imagine you take off a glove and you let it hanging. And I didn't know what it was. It was his skin. And when I said, what happened? He was in a shock. And what appeared to be a red shirt Then we realized, as he got closer, is that he was drenched in blood. This guy was burned 33% of his body, 33%. And as he got closer and everybody realized that, horror, everybody screaming, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And as he got closer, we realized all this part of his face was hanging. And I say, don't move, because I was going to go inside the office to pick up the phone to call the emergency medical unit that was located on the South Tower. The North Tower and the South Tower connected through the basement. There was like a big loop, but they connected through the basement. And they were very efficient to get there. So I went to tell them that I have an injured person in the office. When I went to pick up the phone, another explosion. Very loud, very powerful. The floor started moving below us, and everybody started running to the door frames because they thought it was an earthquake. And they're all piling up by the door frames, all of them. And when I see that, my supervisor, Anthony Saltalamaica, started screaming, it's a bomb, it's a bomb. But why is he saying that? Because he survived the bomb of 1993. A van was placed on our side of the building, same basement, way below, and it blew up. And it killed 6 people, 1,000 people were injured. And of course, he is acting on his memory.
And ultimately, with William himself both surviving the first and last attack on the Twin Towers, brave he has been for going public with his story surviving the second attack. He's very fortunate given the number of people who were at the World Trade Center in 2001 and did die, but had already survived the 1993 bombing like he had, as he is now a survivor twice. But when it comes to what happened 8.5 years earlier with the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, it's now been a long-held belief by conspiracy theorists and the 9/11 Truth Movement that the first attack was carried out by the FBI, or in part by the CIA or some rogue element in the US government, rather than foreign members of the blind Sheikh Omar Abdel Rahman's inner circle, Ramzi Youssef, or Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood, as who authorities first essentially blamed it on, which eventually brought into the loose umbrella term that's now known as Al-Qaeda.
Yeah, it's the FBI that's the big problem. For instance, the court has found that the FBI provided the live bomb. It's a matter of court record for the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, for instance. And we all know that they, set up basically victims, Muslims, to infiltrate these terrorist cells that they created in the first place.
But let's be honest, most that come from the school of thought in which the US government or the FBI did the 1993 bombing basically heard it from the likes of this guy.
But I made a film about this. I've been covering this since right after it happened. That's why I got on air. It took me 2 years to get on air. I got on air in 95.
The FBI actually carried out the attack on the World Trade Center in 1993. They actually hired a retired 43-year-old former Egyptian army officer, Ahmad Salam, and paid him $1 million and gave him real explosives, a detonator, and told him to build a bomb and to give it to the foolish people that he was controlling to allow them to attack the World Trade Center complex. Mr. Salam was not as ruthless and sociopathic as the FBI and their globalist controllers. There was only one problem. The drivers of the truck didn't park it up against the main support column as they had been ordered to do by Mr. Salam and the FBI, and the FBI, and the FBI.
Couldn't believe the FBI would basically tell him to build the bomb, give him real detonators, and then tell him let it go forward. That was a game changer for me, because you're one of the only people on the inside to ever get out alive who exposes a false flag, false flag, false flag.
So was the 1993 World Trade Center bombing actually carried out by the FBI in a government false flag, as Alex Jones and others state, like he did 8.5 years later with 9/11? Or plainly put, as an American conspiracy? Most of you who come across this channel and film already have some grasp to the alternative 9/11 conspiracy theories out there under the 9/11 Truth banner, especially with the infamous story of the dancing Israelis, and much evidence has come out since underlining theirs and other Mossad operatives possibly involved in the September 11th attacks.
Our purpose was to document the event.
But was there also Mossad involvement in the 1993 bombing too? And if there was Mossad involvement in 1993, would one's overall belief on who was alternatively responsible for the 9/11 attacks had been a drastically different conclusion in accusation, knowing that Israeli intelligence was already involved the first time on targeting the Twin Towers? Especially since it's been practically known before mainline success that Alex Jones was once considered the leader of the 9/11 truth movement? Or was the Mossad only involved in 9/11, and the 1993 bombing was a legitimate radical Islamic attack, as what's also retroactively covered within the 9/11 Commission report, as 1993 is also primarily known to be the first Islamic attack in the US. Yet why till this day, even when Osama bin Laden was alive, was he still wanted and charged by the FBI for the East Africa embassy bombings and other terrorist attacks throughout the world, but not specifically for the attacks of September 11th? For which, if the FBI wasn't able to prove bin Laden was behind the 9/11 attacks and subsequent destruction of the World Trade Center, then who was responsible for targeting the World Trade Center the first time in 1993? And speaking of, why also on 9/11 did WPIX News Channel 11 and other local New York press also seem persistent in pushing a Palestinian narrative added with Egyptian complicity in the 1993 bombing? How and when did radical Islam begin? Reality couldn't be further from the truth, when fundamentalist figures that influenced radical Islamic terrorism are not only directly connected to the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, but are inherently connected to what was later known as Al-Qaeda. But like 9/11, 1993 does not rule out any possible Israeli or Western involvements. Aside from mainstream history documentaries, as well as the 1997 HBO movie Path to Paradise, and 2006 controversial ABC movie series Path to 9/11, that are somewhat helpful in familiarity with the before and after 93 bombing story, unfortunately for alternative history, there really isn't a full-length documentary film specific on the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, released independently or distributed commercially, that provides a different narrative given with some of the holes of the story that we're already implying, in contrast to what's more commonly known as far as problems occurring ahead in 9/11. Besides the recent edition with History Channel's Road to 9/11, all that exists mainly covers Ramzi Youssef, and alternatively a few obscure clips featured on early Alex Jones documentaries and throughout so-called research from the late Bill Cooper and Ted Gunderson, all combining the same FBI-CIA shadow government narrative.
Look, the CIA has done in this country, what they've done to us is unbelievable. Look at the terrorist acts that have occurred. The CIA behind most, if not all of them. We had the Marine barracks. We had our embassy in Kenya. We had Pan Am 103. We had the USS Cole. We had Oklahoma City. We had the World Trade Center in 1993.
That helped the terrorists blow up the World Trade Center the first time. They built the bomb. They got the driver's license.
However, this film is a compendium using official and independent narratives as well as news archives, mostly combined and edited in a manner allowing each sampled film and documentary source to tell part of the story, but at the same time, still challenging the official story of the 1993 bombing and also those popular alternative conspiracy theories, whether it's through officials, researchers, witnesses, or perpetrators involved in the stories leading up and following 1993. And to also keep it captivating, this film will also be accompanied by sampling dramatized actors from feature movies. This is The Hidden Path to 9/11, World Trade Center bombing of 1993, false flag terrorism, cover-ups, and missing links.